From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Thursday morning and welcome to Montana This Morning. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for getting your day started with us. Our top story this morning is COVID-19 cases and deaths surge. Hospitalizations from the virus across the country have hit an all-time high. The CDC is once again asking Americans not to travel for the upcoming holidays. Its director, Dr. Robert Redfield, warns the pandemic death toll in the U.S. could hit 450,000 by February. He said the winter months ahead could be the most difficult in the history of public health. Redfield's prediction comes less than 2 weeks before federal health officials say the U.S. should start distributing its first vaccines. Pfizer and Moderna are waiting on their emergency use authorization for the vaccines. Today, the UN General Assembly is holding a special meeting to discuss the global response to the pandemic. Over 100 world leaders will speak virtually about the best path to recovery. Now closer to home, the first shipment of COVID-19 vaccines could find their way to Montana as early as December 15th. Governor Steve Bullock made the announcement yesterday. The first batch will be distributed to the 40,000 plus healthcare workers in the state, and it will take months before it's available to the general public.
Well, we don't know the exact number. We expect, or have been told, about 9,750 doses of the Pfizer vaccine. And then we'll likely be receiving several thousand more doses in subsequent weeks.
The governor also announced how the state will spend all $1.5 billion in federal CARES Act funding before a year's end deadline. More than half went to grant programs focused on business stabilization. The country's top infectious disease specialist, Dr. Anthony Fauci, is weighing in on COVID-19 in the Treasure State. More than 740 Montanans have died from the virus, but Fauci's main concern lies in the state's hospitals. Right now, 478 people are hospitalized across Montana. When asked about the few individuals refusing to wear masks in public, Fauci says they need to check the facts.
You know, I don't want to accuse them or in any manner or form be pejorative to them, but I would ask them and almost plead with them to look at the data. We have 267,000 deaths and close to 14 million infections in this country. That if you have a state like Montana, which doesn't have a lot, you have Billings, which has the major medical center there. You have about 25 ICU beds in that hospital. The last time we checked, you had more ICU patients than you had IC beds for them. That's a problem.
And you can find the entire MTN interview with Dr. Fauci on ktvq.com. Well, now it's time to get a check of weather with Ed for this Thursday. The week's just flying on by as we count down to Christmas, but is it going to be Christmas-like weather quite yet?
Yeah, not yet. In fact, we're going to hold on to some pretty mild temperatures over a period that'll linger right into the middle of next week. But we also have some of that wind right now, that southwest wind at 23. So even though the temperature's at 29, it feels a lot cooler. Same thing we told you about yesterday. Temperatures around us as cold as single digits this morning. Worland only 7 degrees, 8 degrees in Butte, 13 in Bozeman this morning, 11 for you in Cody, but 33 in Livingston, 19 Sheridan, and 18 over in Miles City. But where we have the warmer temperatures, we also have that wind from Livingston out towards Billings, and that will continue to be a concern through today. Temperatures overall across our area are into the teens and 20s with some of those single digits in the Bighorn Basin. By this afternoon, temperatures around Billings should be able to make it up into the mid-40s, warmer than average, but it'll come with some wind in the mix. And we'll talk about what to expect for all the way through the weekend and into the middle of next week coming up in a few minutes.
Oh, today doesn't look like December at all, but not for long.
You always wait for that pendulum to swing the other way.
Yeah, we're just waiting for it.
Yeah.
All right, Ed, thank you so much. I'll get back to the news.
Thanks.
Congress is inching closer to a compromise on a coronavirus stimulus package that could put money in the hands of people who need it most. As CBS's Deborah Alfarone reports, a bipartisan group of lawmakers is hoping to strike a deal before the Christmas holiday.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are embracing a $900+ billion bipartisan coronavirus package with more funding for small businesses, state and local governments, and unemployment benefits. Support for the plan is a massive concession from Pelosi, who is holding out for a bill twice that size.
This isn't a political game. This impacts on people's real lives and families. It impacts on all of you, all of us. And we need to get help out the door as soon as we can.
But Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is pushing his own much smaller plan. It's similar to legislation he proposed earlier this year, which was a targeted $500 billion bill focused on small businesses, schools, and liability protections. It would extend critical unemployment programs by just 1 month.
The president will sign the McConnell proposal that he put forward yesterday, and we look forward to making progress on that.
While Congress works here, many are not working. Millions of Americans are set to lose their unemployment benefits in weeks, and millions are facing eviction. President-elect Biden says no matter what happens, once he takes office January 20th, he'll pursue a sweeping stimulus package.
Any package passed in this so-called lame duck session be now on January 21st, at best, is only going to be a down payment on what's going to happen early next year.
Lawmakers are hoping to pass a stimulus bill before the Senate adjourns for its holiday recess on December 18th. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
A new study projects without a concerted effort to slow the spread of COVID-19, the U.S. economy could take a hit of nearly $5 trillion over 2 years. In other news, Yellowstone County commissioners are working to replace the now demolished Metro Park grandstands, but bad news for the local public schools. They are not being considered to fill the space. School District 2 leaders are pushing for a multi-use sports facility where the grandstands once stood, but the commission's focus is on an agriculture and entertainment venue. School board leaders are now requesting a face-to-face meeting with commissioners, hoping for an explanation. Commissioners say the construction project could be an enclosed area or a new grandstand. In education news, a new rule recently went into effect with the goal of reducing lead in the drinking water at schools across Montana. But for some schools, it may be difficult to follow. MTN's Marion Davidson shows us why.
It's as clear as this water. A refreshing sip shouldn't come with a side of lead, and a statewide rule is aimed at making sure that's the case at schools across Montana.
Children spend a large part of their childhood in schools and are more susceptible to lead exposure than adults.
The Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services, with the help of the State Department of Environmental Quality and the Office of Public Instruction, rolled out the lead reduction in school drinking water rule at the beginning of this year. All schools under the OPI have to test water from every fixture students could possibly get a drink from, and that can be a lot of fixtures.
Especially in elementary schools where you have a sink that you could possibly get drinking water from and a drinking fountain. So you could have, conceivably 2 fixtures for every classroom, plus your restrooms, plus your kitchens.
Fixtures have to come back with less than 5 parts per billion of lead to be usable. But getting to that usable level,
it's challenging, to say the least.
So far, Kalispell is one of the only districts that have submitted lead results. And all of the 5 schools sampled so far have fixtures with elevated levels of lead. Just take a look at Elrod Elementary School. Of the 57 fixtures sampled, 43 exceeded the state action level of lead content. Water from 16 fixtures tested in the state-designated highest category, meaning those fixtures must be replaced immediately.
We have drinking fountains in our hallways that are water is completely disconnected. They're, not just shut off, but cut the line to the water.
And that could be the case at schools across the state.
We are expecting to see probably higher lead concentrations in the older buildings and less so in some of the newer schools.
Lead can seep into water from plumbing and fixtures, especially older plumbing and fixtures. And here in Montana, we have a lot of older schools. According to the American Society of Civil Engineers, the average age of a school facility in Montana is 53 years old.
At the end of the day, the districts are going to be liable to go in and replace fixtures, redo plumbing.
That won't be cheap. Right now, Kalispell Public Schools installed filters on fixtures that showed elevated levels of lead. They work, but at $50 a pop, not counting the cost of replacements, they aren't a long-term solution. What is a long-term solution? New plumbing and fixtures. The OPI and DEQ have a remediation grant program that provides up to $1,000 per school. But Hill says work that needs to be done across the district could cost millions. It's a high price to pay, but to Hill, the choice is clear.
We owe it to our kids to make sure that we're providing the best possible infrastructure for them to be able to learn and grow.
In Helena, Marion Davidson, MTN News.
And according to state records, only 8 schools have submitted lead samples. Schools must test their water by December 31st, 2021. And turning now to election news, Montana's Republican leaders are backing President Trump, and he and his legal team challenged the results of the 2020 election. MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison caught up with them to find out why.
The votes for the November 3rd election have now been certified in most states, including all of the big battleground states like Pennsylvania and Michigan. And Democrat Joe Biden is the winner of the presidential race, with 306 electoral votes to President Trump's 232 electoral votes. Biden also got nearly 7 million more votes than the president in the popular vote nationwide. We asked Republican U.S. Senator Steve Daines and U.S. Representative Greg Gianforte, and now Governor-elect Gianforte, if they accept these certified results, and whether they support Trump's continuing efforts to overturn the election results. Both of them replied only with an almost identical statement, that the election is not yet settled, that litigation is ongoing, and that the Electoral College doesn't vote until December 14th. More than 30 lawsuits filed by the president's legal team challenging election results have failed. U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr said this week the Justice Department found no voter fraud on a scale that would lead to Trump winning. Trump has turned to pressuring some states where he lost to appoint electors who will vote for him. We also asked Democratic U.S. Senator Jon Tester what he thought of the president's efforts to overturn the election. Tester called it incredibly dangerous and said we risk appearing to the world like a banana republic where autocratic rulers attempt to undo election results they don't like.
I think what the president is doing right now really does undermine the democracy of this country. This is the greatest country in the world because we've had people that have had common sense in the White House. I don't see a lot of common sense coming out of the White House right now.
So far, only one prominent Montana Republican has publicly acknowledged Biden's victory, outgoing Secretary of State Corey Stapleton, who is Montana's chief election officer. In a tweet 4 days after the election, Stapleton complimented the president on his accomplishments, but said his time is now over. In his words to Trump, tip your hat, bite your lip, and congratulate Joe Biden. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Montana is one of the 39 states that has certified its election results. President Trump defeated Biden in the Treasure State 57 to 41%. In court news, the Belgrade man who opened fire on police before setting his apartment on fire earlier this week is charged with attempted deliberate homicide, criminal endangerment, and arson. Court documents state police arrived at the home of 39-year-old David Jackson to find him throwing things from his window. Officers say Jackson yelled at them, then began shooting at them before starting a fire. Jackson has a limited criminal history that includes a misdemeanor assault from 2007. His bond was set at $500,000. And before we take a break, a Montana kindergartner who beat cancer got a special surprise from his community. MTN's Sam Hoyle has his story.
Fire trucks, sheriff's vehicles, teachers, and an appearance from the one and only St. Nick were on display today for this young man, Easton Ducharme and his sister Kennedy. Kennedy, a fourth grader at Rossiter Elementary, and Easton, a kindergartner, who is finally cancer-free after 3 years of treatment. Easton's mother, Erin, told MTN before the celebration, the love and support they've received from the community is otherworldly.
It's life-changing. To realize that when you're going through something so tough and you're not sure if you're going to survive day to day, the stuff that's coming at you, to know that you have a community that is behind you and supporting you through it is truly something that has helped us get to the end.
The display was brought together by the school after Erin informed Easton's teacher that he would be missing a day for his final treatment. The school then sprang into action to make it as special as they could.
It's just great that we are able to show students, even though they might be digital learners or remote learners or in person, it doesn't matter. We're all
in this together.
This staff rallied. I mean, they were excited. It's a testament to Rossiter. It's a testament to where we live in the state of Montana, for sure. To celebrate them as a family getting through this together made it pretty easy.
Erin also said before the parade started that she just hopes through this parade that Easton and Kennedy feel that same support that their entire family has gotten across the last few years. And I think it's safe to say that they felt it. Reporting in Helena, Sam Hoyle, MTN News.